What is going down, faithful? It is I, Brad Graham, and of course, as always, the Jason Aponte for the state of the franchise. And Jason, we're coming to you as NFC West champs. Feels great, baby, but we're going to talk a lot more about it right after this beautiful intro. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. Oh,
Woo!
baby, Jason. What is that? Is that a new intro?
Woo! Yeah, so the 49ers wrap up the NFC West in front of Brad Graham in Seattle. And John was nice enough to bless us with that fire-ass intro. My guy, I know you're either watching now or you will be. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, man. That was incredible, man.
Shout out John, absolute legend. Of course, he made the original intro for the page, but he surprised. Like we didn't even ask for this. He
No.
surprised us with the fresh state of the franchise intro, bro. He's got skills to pay the bills. Like I like to fancy myself as an editor. I ain't touching that. I can't. I could have cooked that up, man.
That man is cooking in the kitchen right now, man. That was incredible.
It was absolutely fantastic, and it gets us in a great headspace to talk about where the San Francisco 49ers are at right now. We'll get into some of the injury news that has come out and who's available, who's not available, things like that. But let's just, man, how did you feel about that game, dude? Freaking 49ers take care of the Seattle Seahawks on the road.
If I sound like I'm a little under the weather, it's probably because I am, but it's probably because I've been choking on this Seattle pack this entire time because it is hitting so heavy.
On that Seattle loud, huh?
I've been cooking on this pack since Thursday. Today is Wednesday. We're going on almost a week of being able to say that the 49ers in the NFC West are the champions, and they did it again in Seattle. I would argue, this is what I would pose, and I'm going to throw back to you.
Okay.
I wrote about this in Niners Nation today. I would argue this victory in Seattle to win the NFC West is more impressive than the 2019 Dre Green loss stop. And for obvious reasons. The quarterback, the Monday night, like the Sunday, God, I can't even speak, the Thursday night game, national television, exercising the demons, being the first time that the 49ers have swept this team. I would argue this one really feels like the 49ers have really put the Seattle Seahawks in the rearview mirror, even though I do want to give the Seattle Seahawks a ton of credit. They smashed their draft. The Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson continue to help Seattle, meaning Seattle's going to have a large, high draft pick because Russ stinks, and so does Denver. But as of right now, that felt like exercising the demons. You know when it really felt like when it hit me, Brad? After the game, right? Like after the game, we're all vibing because the NFC West and everything, but then all the videos come out. You see Trent coming out, giving the double bird to the fans, Jimmy Ward ripping up and then you hear Fred Warner. We hate these boys. We hate these MFers. Like they channeled all 49ers fans' frustration, energy, everything into this game. I am going to give this one the nod. Maybe he's prisoner of the moment, but third string quarterback. I don't care what the score was. This score felt like, it should have been 200-0. That's the difference 100%. In the parallels between these two teams right now. There's something different about this because now they're going away for a little while. They'll be back. You know, like they have drafted very well. Shout out to Tariq Woolen, Kenneth Walker, Charles Cross. They drafted very well. They smashed their draft. And now they're going to have a high pick again. They have another high pick again. But this one feels different because it really feels like you put Seattle into the rearview. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in a couple spots. I mean, I think this win is
Never.
huge.
Jason never said the Niners would miss the playoffs this year. Never, ever. I had them at 10, 11 wins. Don't lie. Don't make me start yelling. My throat is already sore.
Hey,
Don't lie.
set the
Don't
record
lie.
straight.
Don't lie. Don't ever once lie. Ever, ever, ever. Don't ever once lie on my name. Don't play with me. I'm not in the mood today. Please.
You said last year. Okay.
Whatever. Who cares? We're on this year. Who cares? Stop being a dick. God, man, get out of here, man. This is all good vibes, and that's what you want to bring up. Get your ass out of here, then.
Hey, get that man. Get after him. But let me talk about the point that you just brought up. You know, I think we're saying that essentially this win feels a bit sweeter or greater, maybe in a sense, than what happened in 2019. Listen, 2019, I've never had as much anxiety about a game watching the 2019 game. The way it came down to the wire, it was absolutely insane. You know, getting the monkey off the back, the 49ers winning in Seattle after the insane Harbaugh era. But this game, you know, being there, I feel like the tide has turned where the monkey on the back, like, yeah, we got it off the back in 2019, but it was back on in 2020, 2021. The Seattle Seahawks had their way with this team. It feels like the dynamic has shifted. I mean, even in the stadium, being there to be able to watch it in person, there was a ton of 49er fans there. I can't remember watching a broadcast. Again, it's my first time being there to see a game in Seattle, but I can't remember watching a broadcast and seeing red or hearing the crowd roar or chant defense or any of that stuff. It definitely feels like the tide is turning in this rivalry, and it definitely feels like the San Francisco 49ers have the upper hand. And you said it, the score didn't even encapsulate how much the 49ers owned that game from start to finish, right? Like it was I don't want to call it a whoop down, but definitely felt that way.
Yeah, I mean, if Brandon Ayuk catches that pass, Robbie Gould makes that kick, I mean, this game like doesn't even have any sort of suspense.
Lenore's pick
was called back. Yeah, like it felt like there's been a lot of talk about rigging games and all that stuff, but it did kind of feel like people were trying to keep this team in it because the 49ers had every opportunity to just end this game, and I felt like it was never close. That was as close to a blowout without the score indicating that I've ever seen.
Right.
There is such a gap between where the Seattle Seahawks are and where the San Francisco 49ers are. And that's what, again, people will look at the box score and they'll say, well, 20-13, like that's not really, that, but you got to watch the games at some point, right? Like you have to start watching the games.
Jordan Mason could have scored on that very
Jordan
last
Mason
play. They kneel on the one to run out.
God help you if you needed that touchdown for your fantasy playoffs, man. Like I just, there's so many things that could have went that way, but Coach continues to build his resume, back-to-back years for the first time that the 49ers under his watch have winning seasons, are going to be in the playoffs. So this is 3 times during Kyle Shanahan's watch that they'll be in the playoffs. The last 2 times, the least amount that they've gotten to is the NFC Championship. You start to look around at the NFC. Jalen Hurts will be fine, I think, probably for the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys are fucking frauds. They gave up almost 70 to the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars back-to-back weeks. The Dallas Cowboys, week after week, show you exactly who they are. If you don't want to pay attention, that's up to you. The Minnesota Vikings are fraudulent as all ever. At this point, the 49ers, all they have to do is get healthy and stay healthy. Javon Kinlaw comes back, just stay healthy, get to that finish line, and now the ball's in your court. If it comes down to the 49ers and Philly, then it comes down to the 2 best teams in the NFC. But don't start looking around the NFC and telling me about anybody else. I don't want to hear about Dallas anymore. That's done. I don't want to hear about Minnesota anymore. That's done. No 49ers team would ever go down 33-0 to the Indianapolis Colts, ever. Let alone, the Colts let them back in it. But yeah, right now, the 49ers look like that team that nobody wants to play. None. And that has a lot to do with culture, has a lot to do with coaching. Stephen Reeves wrote an article today that a lot of people are picking apart because he said, we've seen the ceiling with Brock Purdy. I don't agree necessarily with that. What he said was, we haven't seen the floor. But what he did say that I wholeheartedly agree with is on both sides of the ball, you have the two best play callers, DeMeco Ryans and Kyle Shanahan. And I don't think anybody else has that in terms of their team. But yes, right now the 49ers are just rolling in the right direction.
Well, you hear it a lot in the media right now. You know, all these national pundits, they're calling the San Francisco 49ers the scariest team in the NFL because of, they have a third string quarterback. So there's a bit of kind of sleeping on them a little bit. But then again, you look at all the offensive weapons that they have and you look at that defense. Joe Staley went on KNBR and said, this is the best defense in franchise history. Said it's even better than the 2019 team.
Hold up. But when I say that, Brad, when I said that before they took a snap, everybody's like, oh, you're overstepping and all that. And then I even saw one former 49er say something that I had said, that Charvarius Ward is the best cover corner the 49ers have had since Deion Sanders. And everybody's like, yeah, he's right. And I'm just like, hey, man. Hey, like, look, man, I've gotten a shit ton of things wrong this year. I have. I'm not gonna walk away from that. But damn,
you gotta take the W's on the ones you got right. I'm just
saying, like, if y'all are gonna call me out every time I get something wrong, why can't you guys hit me and be like, yo, Jay said that. Yo, like, what happened? Jay said that on the radio. Jay said this. Like, this is the hard part about the content business, Brad. Nobody calls your W's out. They only call out your L's.
Just point out your L's.
And that's it. Like, so, like, whatever. But at this point, I'm just like, damn it, I said that earlier on. And I hadn't even seen them take a snap yet. But yeah, that's who they look like. That's
well,
who
you
they
came
look
on
like.
Here when we were doing our training camp shows. You're like, this is the best defense that the 49ers have had in a long time. Like,
and everybody said
we skipped past 2019. We were like, it's in the discussion for 2012, but we're like, nah, this might be 1994 type beat, right? That's what we were talking about.
And the thing is the nod that I gave over the 2012 team was the secondary and DeMeco Ryans. I'm not trying to disrespect, Lord Fangio, Rich, if you're watching. Like, I don't want you to yell at me and tell me to watch the tape. I just believe that much in DeMeco. And DeMeco continues to show out. Shout out to him. And I love, whatever job he's about to get. He might be the Houston coach next year. Might be, the Indianapolis coach next year. Somebody is going to hire that man. But yeah, that's the defense we saw every single day that was putting Trey Lance in hell every day in training camp, every single day. And you know what's funny is there would be days that Mooney Ward wouldn't play. There'd be days that Emmanuel Mosley wouldn't play, but the defense would not bend or break or anything. Like, they were that solid. So it's all just now playing out the way that we believed it would.
Absolutely. And you're seeing it week in and week out, and you kind of talked about it, no Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley, I don't want it to be forgotten how good he was playing. Like, he was playing at a phenomenally high level before he went down with the ACL against the Panthers in week 5. Just imagine what that defense could be looking like right now with him out there. But Deommodore Lenoir's been playing really well.
Lenoir stepped up incredibly, man.
Absolutely. Not only that, but we looked at this defensive line with Samson Ebukam, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Nick Bosa, Charles Omenihu. Well, those two stalwarts in the middle, they've been hurt. We get Eric Armstead back against the Dolphins, and that defense is churning at a different level now. They're even playing better than they were. And they were already the top-ranked defense in the NFL. Now, Javon Kinlaw's practicing for the first time since going on IR earlier in the year. Like, listen, I get it if you don't have any, or you don't want to have expectations for Javon Kinlaw. I can totally understand that. But all things considered, if he's healthy and he's ready to go, and you've got Javon and Eric in the A-gaps with this defense, try running on them. Try passing on them. Good luck to anyone else, man. How do you feel about this team? It feels like they're starting to get healthy. And we know Deebo Samuel probably could have played this week if it was anyone else other than Washington, and the record indicated that he needed to play, but sounds like they're going to keep him off to the side. Smart. What do you think about this team getting healthy right now?
Smart, man. And the only way that you can do that with Deebo Samuel is because you traded for this McCaffrey guy. who I had never heard of, Brad, before this trade. Like I had
I was
never heard of
told
him
that it
before.
was not a very good trade by some.
I
I
was
don't know.
told I was told that you can't give away second and third round picks, but those third
Nope.
round picks
For a
sometimes
running back in
are
this
Jalen Hurd.
economy?
Sometimes third round picks are Jalen Hurd and Trey Sermon, and I mean
Joe
I can't believe
Williams, the fourth round pick.
you guys didn't want to find that guy, right? But the only way that you're able to sit and rest Deebo Samuel is by having Christian McCaffrey, the gravity that he like brings to the field, meaning the attention. I mean, you can't run
He's
those.
our Steph Curry.
Right. You can't run like the fake screens and then hit Kittle over the middle, like again, without everyone paying attention to that. If Deebo Samuel was forced into duty, it would be because McCaffrey's not here. And look, this isn't a victory lap because we're far from being able to grade this McCaffrey trade off of a few games. I do want to point out the fact that since Christian McCaffrey has been fully integrated into this offense, regardless of the quarterback, the 49ers are undefeated, never lost. Undefeated, never lost.
Never lost.
Never lost. But this is going to be a 2 and 3 year thing with Christian McCaffrey, right? Like this isn't just like he wasn't brought here to bring one, right? Like if you were going to sacrifice those picks, you damn sure better make sure that he's going to be healthy enough down the line to make that work. So for me, Christian McCaffrey is the reason that you're able to keep your foot off the gas pedal with Deebo Samuel and bring him along as easily as you can, right? And that speaks to the playmakers. That speaks to, what they've built. That was the idea. The idea of bringing all these playmakers was to make it easy on the quarterback. Didn't matter if it was Trey, Jimmy, or Brock. All that stuff is easier now when you have this elite playmaker core. So you're able to slow down Deebo Samuel and get him ready for when you need him, because you're going to need everything at your disposal when it gets to playoff time because it's one and done. But Christian McCaffrey is the reason that this offense is ascending. Kyle Shanahan is able to call things that have him as the outlet. Whoever the quarterback is knows where he is, and he makes so many plays with the ball in his hands. It's getting really easy now for Kyle, and you start to see that this offense is hitting its stride now with Christian McCaffrey.
Absolutely. Christian McCaffrey had 26 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks and added 6 receptions for 30 yards. Like he's the epitome of an offensive weapon to go along with Deebo Samuel. So it's a perfect compliment, and he has been fantastic. He's so good, and you can kind of get a sense that he's still trying to gauge a little bit of how to run behind this offensive line, like how to read their blocks and like what the correct angles are to hit. But when he hits for big gains, and he has been absolutely huge. The other guy that's been really huge for the San Francisco 49ers, as we've long discussed the quarterback position for feels like an eternity. It's not Trey. Go ahead.
And it's only going to continue. Mike Silver put out a piece today that only fans the flames of this. So
what did he say? I didn't see it.
The first thing I'll say before I get into what Mike Silver said, even though I'm blocked, it's still on my timeline somehow, is, guys, please do not focus on what's going to happen in the offseason. Please focus on this team and what's happening right now, right? Like,
I agree.
I agree. We will deal with that when we get to that. Certainly feels like we're on a collision course towards a quarterback competition in camp. However that makes you feel is up to you. And I'm not telling you to be upset or whatever it is. That's what we're going for. But Mike Silver put out something about the 49ers misjudged Trey Lance's speed to get to the outside. That's why they ran him inside so much. And it only fans the flames, right? Like everything.
Well, I don't disagree with that necessarily.
Yeah, but the thing is, Brad, Mike Silver covers the 49ers. This team has 53 players on the roster, 53 guys that are active and that can actually play. Why are you talking about this on December 21st when this team has won 7 straight games and they're on their way to the playoffs? Why? Why bring this up? So this feels like, again, if I can go on a mini rant, this feels like Mike Silver is still bitter about getting the Mac Jones shit wrong, and he wants to fan the flames and start stuff over and over and over again. He's not from here. He's not here for anything but other to stir up controversy. That is pure clickbait. That could have been saved for the offseason. None of that has to do with anything that correlates to this team right now. That's my issue with it. That is more my issue with it than anything. That is not conducive to strong conversation, productive conversation, and all it is doing is fanning the flames of something that is in the back of our minds, but shouldn't be in the front of our minds because there's something in front of us, what this team can do this year.
I mean, I agree with you. We've on my channel when we do lives, I get asked all the time, who's going to be the quarterback next year, and my response to that is, we're not even close to talking about next year. We got playoffs in front of us. We have an opportunity to have a really special season. There's no real reason that we need to talk about the quarterback position for next year, because we need to figure out what happens this year before that can even be a tangible conversation. Like, we could talk about it, but it's just to, I think, your point, it's to stir up the conversation. It's to stir up because it's something that a lot of fans think about. They think about, well, what's happening next year. Brock Purdy won the last 2 games he started, came in and thrown into the fire against the Dolphins. He's looking great. What are we going to re-sign Jimmy, Trey, like Aaron Rodgers, Tom? Like, so it's a thought process of fans. But if we have so much to talk about right here, right now, like, we don't have to look that far into the future, because guess what? Once the Super Bowl is over, what are we going to be talking about, Jason? We've been down this road before. We do content all off season. So we are going to talk about the quarterback position, because it's going to be one of the biggest topics, not only in 49ers football content creation, but in the entire NFL. They are going to be talking about, what are the 49ers going to do at quarterback?
And the other thing is, it's a great problem to have. How many teams can be on their third string quarterback? And maybe it's premature. It's 2 starts. It's 3 extended, game film. It's 3 extended clips of game film for Brock Purdy. Maybe it's a bit premature. But think about it when a team is on their third quarterback. What that means. It means
most teams don't even carry 3 quarterbacks.
It's death for your team. Your team can't even be in this position to be talked about this way. If push comes to shove and we get into training camp and it's an outright quarterback competition, it means this 49ers team is as deep and as loaded as we thought they were. And we didn't realize that at quarterback is where they were most loaded. And that is the part that I think is hard for people to understand. Everybody kind of hitched their wagon one way or another, as opposed to being fluid. Be water, people.
Right.
And take it from me, the guy who was not impressed with Brock Purdy early on. My biggest mistake was thinking that he could not contribute, thinking that he could not. I own that L. That's my biggest lesson. The same advice I was giving everybody about Trey Lance, I should have been giving to myself about Brock Purdy, in terms of watch him grow, let him cook, don't make any sweeping statements. Guess who made a sweeping statement? Me, and it blew up in my face. I own that L. That's what I learned. All of this is a learning process. You go back from your evaluation process, you check your notes, and you say, this is where I got it wrong. I got it wrong there. I got it wrong. Even if it is 2 games, the kid looks better than I ever could have thought he would have ever looked in 2 games. I never would have been able to think this offense would operate with this efficiency or look this good. No way. But I'm wrong. I deserve that. I deserve all of that. I deserve all that criticism. But at the same time, having this problem, if Brock Purdy, if Trey Lance, if Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows right now, right? Like, if all 3 of these guys show up at camp, if all 3 of them show up at camp at this point, why would you be shocked? This team does whatever they want. If that's the problem, that's a great problem to have. A great problem to have.
Right. It is. And especially if there is, I'm not going to jinx it, but if the 49ers have somehow acquired a 6th ring, I keep saying this, a potato could be the quarterback next year. I don't care. I care about this season, this year, the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. The 49ers have loaded weapons all over their offense, and the quarterback is distributing the ball accurately, effectively, and efficiently. That's what I care about. We are going to talk about the quarterback position till our eyes bleed this offseason. It's going to happen. I promise you, but we don't really need to cross that bridge. And we understand why people may tip into that area, and to each their own. But for us, let's talk about Brock Purdy right now. You have 3 games, 2 starts. What is your impression after watching live, watching the tape, studying it? What do you see from Brock Purdy? Is this for real or is he a flash in the pan? What are we dealing with here?
I think, again, I'm going to give a boring answer. I am going to say that we are still collecting data, but it's hard to not walk away impressed with the way that this man handles everything. Kyle Shanahan isn't shying away from throws that have always been there. I think the biggest message I want to give to everybody is everybody assumes this offense is operating in a different way with Brock Purdy. Well, those throws were always in the play calls for Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo just never took them. Mm-hmm. So there is a little bit of a disconnect when it comes to people who look and they say, well, look at how Kyle's calling games. He wasn't calling that with Jimmy. No, he was calling those same plays. Jimmy was just getting the ball out faster to the underneath guy.
His progressions were much different.
And he was quicker out with the ball. Like, he wants to get out with it. And I think Brock is better right now, two games in, what I noticed, pre-snap diagnosis, understanding what the defense is trying to do. Like, yeah. I think that's the part that is lost on people. Everybody gets enamored with the throws. The throws are great. Like, you have to be excited about that. But the pre-snap diagnosis, understanding where I know this ball can go, where this coverage is coming from. Right now, he doesn't look confused. And again, it is 2 games. But it's hard for me to not be impressed with his poise. I got to answer this. You can go now.
Sorry, say that again. I got distracted by Rob Gronkowski's tweet.
Apparently, you got it
Rob Gronkowski tweeted, "I'm kind of bored." So in my head, I'm like, wait, should we bring Rob to the Niners? Sorry. Reset that. What were you saying?
No, I had to answer a call because I ordered pizza for Averly and the guy just called me. What? Gronkowski said what? Now, what are we doing here? I'm kind of bored. No, don't do this, man. No, don't do this. Look, what I've noticed is this, and that ain't gonna help the Tampa Bay Bucks. God help it. That's not.
No, bring it to the Niners. Let's go, dog.
So, oh God, Gronk and Kittle. All right, so whatever at this point. Like, yo, like, just make it happen. Like, let's go all the way in. But no, with Brock Purdy, it's hard to be impressed. It's hard not to be impressed. Hard not to walk away with his smarts. Where he throws the ball. PFF kind of dinged him for 4 turnover-worthy throws. I would like to know what that means because it puts him in the same percentage as like Zach Wilson and Justin Fields. I would like to know what that definition means because as far as I could see in Seattle, there was an incompletion, which for whatever reason, 49ers quarterbacks get dinged for incompletions and they call them dropped interceptions. If it's a dropped interception, it's an incompletion. So, okay,
yes,
maybe that's a turnover-worthy throw, but I'm trying to figure out what this percentage is and how they got to this number. You have to be impressed with his poise, the noise, him being able to handle the verbiage. Those guys believe in him. All of that stuff matters. So, again, do you have to make sweeping statements and say that he's Joe Montana? No. But you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say that you have to be impressed with what this kid has been doing so far. And again, I have to eat crow on this. I do. I mean, I made a sweeping statement on what I thought he could do with extended reps, and that's been proven wrong. And that's a lesson on me. That's egg on my face. That's all that, like everything. So I take that. I take it back with my evaluation. I'll go to camp next year, and I'll be better now because of it. But I do have to accept that L right now because no matter what comes from this season, he is playing better than I ever would have imagined, ever. Yeah. So that's it.
I mean, it's pretty shocking, like how well he's been playing. Like we talked about it earlier. We were both at training camp. I went to joint practices in Minnesota. Like I wasn't watching Brock. I wasn't like, ooh, what's Brock doing? Like I really wasn't evaluating him like that, which is again a mistake by me because I didn't even see this coming. And when he he came in against the Dolphins, you could see it right away. And I think you touched on it a little bit. It's his processing, man, pre and post snap processing. You know, some of the things that we watch with Jimmy Garoppolo, and again, not to compare and contrast to the two, but a lot has been discussed about Kyle Shanahan trusting Brock Purdy. And it feels like the trust is coming from knowing that Brock is going to go to the right spot with the football. Even that play to George Kittle in Seattle, where he leaked out the back, everyone just was focused on Christian McCaffrey in the flat, right? Brock didn't just go to the flat. He was able to be patient, wait for everything to open up, and deliver a catchable ball. Like he Brock is playing above his pay grade. He is playing exceptionally well. It's pretty fantastic to see.
Yeah, and again, I think college experience, how much experience you have commanding a team, right? A lot of that has to do with it. And I will agree, Kyle Shanahan does look way more confident right now with Brock Purdy. He looks incredibly confident with what he can call, what he knows he can handle. I mean, even little things like we talked about, 2 weeks ago, I guess after the Miami game, calling timeout when things don't look right, like being able to just say, "No, you know what? Timeout. Do this again." Like that's something that feels like he has a grasp on what should be happening, moving guys in the right direction. It all screams, again, this front office. I did a rookie report card for Niners Nation. Burford, Womack, Purdy, Mason. Like, this front office is nailing their evaluations, nailing the guys that fit what they want to do. Yep. For every draft pick that I make fun of, that we make fun of, that doesn't hit, you still have to give this front office, for all this talk about Kyle being coach of the year. Where's John Lynch's executive of the year talk? Where's him and
bringing in Charvarius Ward and
Charvarius Ward, all this stuff, man? This team is built so well, so properly, top to bottom. Every single level has impact players that now you are starting to see that Brock Purdy's not a potato, but kind of to that point of, this has always been a quarterback-friendly system. Yeah. You just need the right guy to execute it. And when you have this level of talent at all levels, defense, offense, both sides, this is what you can start to see happening. Seven-game win streak, a team that nobody wants to play. If they're absolutely healthy, they're easily the scariest team in the NFC. And some people are already anointing them the best team in the NFC, even with Phillies winning. So it's something that you need to give your organization flowers for. I'm not saying that they are above reproach. I'm not saying that you don't have to ever criticize them. I'm not saying you have to like everything. But I am saying that you do have to notice the things that are objectively true. They smashed in this draft. They got a starting guard. They got 2 starting guards in the last 2 drafts. Yeah. They got Jordan Mason, undrafted free agent, who everybody loves. Brock Purdy, last pick in the draft. And look at what he's doing. This organization continues to build this roster in the right way, man. And that's it, comrade, too. Paying Greenlaw before he gets expensive. I mean, this team is not missing right now with the way that they're building. They are just hitting their stride, it feels like.
Definitely. Let's get to some of these super chats. They're starting to pile up on us. First one off the bat. JP Hella Hard says, "What size shirts do y'all wear? I got the NFC West champs.
I need it.
I would love one. That would be fantastic.
I'm good with it. I'm good with a medium.
Double XL, baby. Big boys." Excuse me. Let's see what else we got. So these two are going to kind of roll into each other. William says they've only played one playoff team and got smoked. And then Bruce is saying we have all pro players at every position. There's absolutely no excuse not to win a Super Bowl. Seriously, why are we not pounding these teams? So those last 2 super chats kind of correlate. They feel like we have all these weapons on a third string quarterback. The only team that we've played that we would say is in that upper echelon of talent in the NFL is the Chiefs. But they've lost to the Bears. They've lost to the Broncos. What's going on here?
Early on in the season, this team was still trying to find its way through injuries. That Chiefs game, I still believe wholly in my heart that was a game that was very close for a long stretch of that game. And coverage bust here, coverage bust there. All of a sudden, boom, that game gets out of control. And Mecole Hardman scoring 3 touchdowns on end arounds. Not going to happen again. Not going to happen again. playoff teams is subjective, because if you would have had this conversation a few weeks ago, the Seattle Seahawks were a playoff team. If you'd had this conversation a few weeks ago, the Miami Dolphins were a playoff team. So again, I'm going to go back to styles make fights. Explosive offense in Miami gets held down for that entire game. That's a good sign. Obviously, the Chiefs game went the way that it went. But I would largely attribute all of those points, or not all of them, many of those points, to a 3rd and 20 screen pass to Jerick McKinnon, a wide open busted coverage to Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman beating them to the outside on outside runs. I don't suspect that that's something that would happen again. And then when you talk about the Bears game, well, it was in the rain. Trey Lance's first real start out of the offseason. The Broncos game. Yeah, that Broncos game was Jimmy Garoppolo out of his first start, and the defense allowed 9 points. So, and in the Falcons game, they're missing Nick Bosa. This guy goes out. Ward goes out. Hufanga leaves that game. This is the NFL, right? You lose impact players during games, it's going to affect ball games. What you're seeing right now, this large stretch, this 7-game stretch, this is the 49ers. Now, Christian McCaffrey wasn't available for many of those games early on. How much would he have been able to offset what was going on defense in those games, right? The Kansas City game, he was used sparingly. That's why I said when he's been fully integrated to this offense, they haven't lost a game. This team that you're seeing in front of you right now, it's not about how you start. It's about how you finish. That's it. You nobody wants to start hot and then all of a sudden descend. That's the Dallas Cowboys. That's the New York Giants. That's the the New York, other teams that have started very well and now are on their way out, right? Styles make fights. This team right now is getting healthy, and what they have in front of them and what you've been watching is the real 49ers. It's not that team that you saw early on in the year. And that's what I've always been preaching. You can only start to evaluate them at the end of the year with the whole body of work. This whole body of work right now is that this 49ers team is legit. Everyone's scared. Nobody wants to see that.
You had Brock Purdy come out and beat the GOAT in his very first career start. You had the red-hot Miami Dolphins come in to Levi's Stadium and get beat by Brock Purdy. And you're starting to see Geno Smith get beat by Brock Purdy at home. Let's face it. We know what this defense is. This defense is phenomenal, and they're going to continue to play at that level. The offense is starting to fall into place. We knew week 1, week 2, they were doing a lot of things offensively that was much different than the prototypical Kyle Shanahan scheme, right? Because Trey Lance had an additional ability to run. So it was changing kind of the way the offense was operating. Then Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, but he comes in off of whatever. Everyone called it excuses, whatever, offseason, what have you. But it took a little while to get him going. I mean, the 49ers are falling into place, right? They're not a finished product yet. And I think you said it perfectly. This last stretch, we talked about it all at the beginning. We've been doing state of the franchise every week all year. And we said from week 1, week 2, week 3, we'll have a more defined opinion of this team after the bye. We said that and we kept saying it even after these losses. It's still kind of like the preseason for these teams. We'll have a more defined thought process of what this team really is after the bye. After the bye, they've been lights out. Have they lost? They beat the Chargers. Rams. They beat the Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Bucks, and Seahawks. So after the bye, Jason, what are they? They seem to be pretty damn good, and that's with their third-string quarterback.
Yeah. And again, that speaks to the culture, that speaks to the roster, that speaks to what has been in place. Everything that everyone had told you about how deep this roster is, it is proving itself true day after day. For them to be able to offset injuries to Emmanuel Mosley, who has been playing incredible, for them to have weeks where Trent Williams didn't play, for them to lose Elijah Mitchell, for them to bring in Christian McCaffrey and lose 2 starting quarterbacks to be in this position right now, it just speaks to what they've built. Again, I want to make sure that John Lynch, Adam Peters, Kyle Shanahan, they get their flowers for what they bought, because they've done an amazing job. And for the first time during their tenure, back-to-back playoff seasons, back-to-back winning seasons, and the Rams are cooked. I see a Rams fan in here. The Rams are cooked. You're hoping Baker Mayfield is going to save you. Aaron Donald ain't coming through that door anymore. He's going home next year. He don't want to play anymore. You got your Super Bowl. Watch it on YouTube. But it's done. It's done. You're done. The Cardinals are done. And maybe Seattle is on their way. But the Rams are cooked. Don't come in here talking shit. Please go do something else with your life right now at this point. I would like for you, sing a song, ride a bike, go sit by a lake, do something else. Stop watching other people's teams that are actually good, because I had to watch Baker Mayfield and the damn Rams against the Packers, and I wanted to throw up on my TV. It was gross. It was really gross, man. I don't like it.
Let's see. We got 49ers throwback, and appreciate everyone for sending the super chats as always. The offensive line is playing well. They are getting better. Purdy and Kittle seem to have a good connection. And to kind of expand on that a little bit, George Kittle went on KMBR earlier this week, and I really do believe they think very highly of this young kid. I mean, he talked about what you need to be as a quarterback inside the huddle to be able to command guys. Don't let other guys speak over you. And when you really and you think about it, and you're the last pick in the NFL draft, and you're walking into a huddle with Trent Williams, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, like these are, Kyle Juszczyk, these are the elite of the elite offensive players in the NFL. Some of the best. Like I still believe Trent Williams is going to go down as probably the best offensive lineman to ever play the game. To be able to step in, working your way from third string up and enter a game and command these guys, tell them to, hey, pipe down, get it together. Like, that's huge. And George talked about it. He's like, that to us, we look at that and we rally around that. If you can come into the huddle and command the respect of these types of guys, that's huge. You have to be able to do that. You can't be timid. You can't be unconfident or phased by the moment. George Kittle said that this guy is different. He comes in, he has that. What do we talk about with Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo commands a huddle. He has an ability to lead these other guys and elevate the play. Jimmy might not be the Josh Allen, the Patrick Mahomes, and elevate people's play with his physical traits, but there's an intangible trait that does exist, especially at the quarterback position, and it is crystal clear that Brock Purdy has it. So, yes, I think Purdy and Kittle are continuing to build this connection because, one, Purdy has an ability to read defenses. You talked about it earlier. He has an ability to identify pre and post snap. His pre-snap reads of understanding where pressure is coming from is some of the best I've seen from a San Francisco 49ers quarterback in the last 10 years. Like, he is processing the game at a high level, and I think it's elevating the entire group as a whole. Like, yeah, he's making the throws. He's doing what he needs to do. But there's a belief here that these guys have in Brock Purdy, and it's pretty damn special, at least in my opinion.
And to piggyback off that, I mean, Nick Bosa being able to get to the podium and say, we got ourselves a quarterback. And, a lot of people will take that as a slight at, the other quarterbacks. I don't think it's that. I think that maybe there was a feeling for a little bit for those guys about, damn, we're on our third quarterback, but they had been around Brock the entire time. They understood that, all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, the offensive line is playing very well. It's funny how quarterback play and getting the ball out on the right time also helps the offensive line. But, hey, it's a story for another day, Brad, because all of a sudden now Mike McGlinchey's not giving up sacks, things like that, right? It's kind of funny how that works out, right? Like it's almost like quarterback and offensive line play kind of go hand in hand in certain spots,
Interesting thought.
Interesting thought. But yeah, look, this team, and it's the culture, they're rallying around this guy right now. They're doing everything that they can right now. They believe that's half the battle at this point. It feels right now after 2 games, feels like a movie that this movie can never happen, right? Like if you wrote this Disney movie and it was like the last pick in the draft and Kevin Costner drafted him or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden he like leads this team into a deep playoff run, you say, well, that can't happen, but why not? Why not? And I think that's why these guys are feeling that way. It's why not? Why not? And as he grows, as he gets more reps, it's not impossible to say that he can get better. That's why I disagreed with the Stephen Ruiz article. We've seen the ceiling. After 2 games we have, I mean, if this is the ceiling, I mean, it's not a bad ceiling because of what we've seen, like in the way that he's played. But after 2 games, again, goes back to the sweeping statements thing. So I do think that these guys have
Well,
spent a lot of time.
really quick, I think it's part of your perception too, because
Right.
in my opinion, I'm looking at the floor.
Yeah.
Like we see he has the floor. The floor is very high.
He said we haven't seen the floor.
He says we haven't seen the floor.
He said we've seen the ceiling, we haven't seen the floor. And what does that floor look like? He seems to be insinuating that the bottom will fall out of this. Stephen Ruiz.
Somehow he's just going to collapse and have a 3 interception game, and that's going to define who he is as a quarterback.
And he kind of pointed to those turnover worthy throws, which the percentage puts him with Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, a guy.
One of those throws was a punt.
Right.
It was a what, 4th and long, and one-on-one coverage with a free rusher coming, about to hit him in the face, and he just let it rip. And it was effectively a punt.
I disagree with that part. I think Stephen Ruiz is a very sharp guy. I think he knows his X's and O's.
I haven't seen the article, so
so it just came out.
To what, and I want to cook off of what you're saying. So, but continue.
It just came out. I think that Stephen Ruiz is a sharp guy. I think he knows his X's and O's. I just disagree with that right now, only because, again, if I told you after 3 or 4 starts with Trey Lance that what we should be doing is collecting data, why would I change that about Brock Purdy and just automatically jump to this, even if I already made the sweeping statement that was absolutely wrong in training camp, right? So that's all we should be doing. There's no wrong way to be optimistic and also collect data right now at this point. Yeah, exactly, Francisco. It's insane to say after 2 starts he's hit his ceiling. Sure. Are there examples of guys who have burned bright and completely dominated the league and completely fallen off? Sure. But I don't believe, and you know what? And history can be an indicator for the future. But for me, I feel like right now it's people can't believe what's happening right now with Brock Purdy. They can't believe. So they're trying to quantify it with their logic. They're trying to point to past examples to say, hey, this happened, this could happen, anything could happen. But to say that you've hit your ceiling after 2 weeks, I don't necessarily believe that that's possible. And I don't think you could come to that conclusion.
No, the way I perceive it is he can, in fact, only get better as he continues to get more experience, more reps under his belt, and has an ability to understand what it's like to play with these guys in real time and how to work within Kyle's scheme and build even more confidence. I only see it continuing to get better. Obviously, every dog has his day. Like, not everyone goes out and has a phenomenal game. We've seen bad games from Deebo Samuel. We've seen bad games from George Kittle, Fred Warner. The list goes on and on. Everyone has a bad game. But so far, Brock Purdy has not had that. And considering the circumstances in which he's been thrust into the spotlight, I find that to be astronomically impressive, considering the circumstances, considering his context, considering how he got to this point. I mean, we both like Justin Fields quite a bit, but I think we could also both look at what Brock Purdy is doing and be like, he's probably a better passer right now than Justin Fields.
And that's absolutely fair. That is 100% fair.
So to say like his ceiling, his floor, I'm the opposite. I don't think we've seen the ceiling. I think we're seeing the floor, because when I evaluate quarterbacks, I'm evaluating the intangible aspect. Of course, how good is his arm? How good is his mobility? How well does he work within the pocket? But a lot of that comes from your ability to process, your ability to read pre and post snap, get the ball where it's supposed to go. I mean, this dude has got to have a PhD in physics or something, because of the way he changes his arm slots, his arm trajectory, the way he finds ways to find passing lanes. Like, that to me is, you have it or you don't. Like, it's not one day Purdy's going to show up and be like, I forgot how to throw. Like, he clearly has had to work around his size issues that got him to be the last pick in the NFL draft. And he's clearly figured out the workarounds. He knows how to throw on the run. He knows how to do all these different types of things. So I don't see how you could say he's reached his ceiling.
The other thing is, I don't feel like this offense has reached its ceiling.
Nope.
Here's the thing. How can you tell me that this quarterback's reached this ceiling when we still pop on the tape and there's still guys running wide open? And I think this is part of where the conversation surrounding quarterbacks should start. Is there is always going to be guys wide open, running wide open. Shanahan's a master at manipulating coverages, getting guys. This is why people call him a genius. Because regardless of the quarterback, if the quarterback can see it and read it and rip it, there's always going to be someone open. This offense is not going to be clamped down on. It is about the quarterback who is seeing the field, distributing the ball. So that's where he's already in a good spot. Already. Then you add on the playmakers. So, and it's still like there's still plays left on the field. Ayuk dropped the pass that would have kept that drive going. Who knows? That would have been a touchdown on that drive. Yeah. That score goes somewhere else, like completely in that game. I mean, Purdy starts 10 for 10 in this game and then has a couple of misfires. Clearly, I felt like the oblique was bothering him a little bit more than I think people let on. I definitely wanted to.
Yeah, I think people forget he was injured in this game.
Right. Mm-hmm. So how can you say that Purdy's mind or Purdy's ceiling is already hit when there's still one more gear, I think, for this offense? Still one more gear. Like when they are completely operating on all cylinders, they're putting up 35, 37, 40 points a game. Now, obviously, things are not perfect in the league. That's why you don't see those type of numbers, even from the better offenses, the best offenses. That's why, Mahomes and them had their problems with the Texans, right? Like that happens, right? They lost to the Colts. That happens. It's the league. But yeah, like you have to always 100% look at there's always going to be guys open. Kyle gives you the answer in the play call. And from there, it's up to you.
Absolutely. Basically, the way I feel is the 49ers are in a good spot.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that they're on their third string quarterback, which would never make me feel that way. We saw what happens with CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins. I think George Kittle said out of the 6 seasons he's played, 4 of them he's played with 3 quarterbacks. That's freaking insane. So the fact that Brock Purdy's able to step in and keep the ship on the right track, that deserves a lot of credit for himself. Now, is he going to be the Josh Allen, the Patrick Mahomes? Probably not, but we don't need him to be. We absolutely don't need him to be. So I'm not even worried about that. Let's get to a couple of these super chats. I've been trying to fit them in here as best I can. But I want to see it, and Jason will be right back with us. But let's see how we can fit this in here. Jeffrey, apologize. You got the super chat in a long time ago, but I want to get to it before it's too late. He says, seen something reported today. We get beat up because of how physical we play. However, teams that have played the Niners are 1-12 after that game. I saw that stat too, where the teams that get beat by the San Francisco 49ers go on to have a pretty abysmal week the week after, and essentially pointing to the 49ers just, one, not only beat you up physically, but they kind of beat you up mentally with how they beat you and how they whoop you down. Yes, the 49ers are a very physical team. They're going to hit you in the mouth offensively and defensively, but injuries are part of football. I'm not going to attribute that to this is why they get hurt. It just happens. Look across the league. Injury, like last week or the week before, it's just the injuries are piling up.
Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Why are we not yelling at Sirianni because Jalen Hurts got injured?
Because the Eagles can do no wrong this year.
Wait a minute. Sirianni has nothing to do with the fact that Jalen Hurts got hurt running the football? Oh, wait a minute. It might be a contact sport. I saw one of the most ridiculous tweets in the world. And trust me, there's a lot of them out there.
That's saying a lot.
That is saying a lot. Fields got hurt, Hurts got hurt, Lamar got hurt, this guy got hurt, all running quarterbacks. This is not sustainable. Yeah? Now pull up all the guys who got hurt in the pocket. Tannehill, Jimmy, Josh. Like the list goes
Brady.
On and on. And Brady. The list goes on and on and on.
We got a rule change because of Brady getting hurt in the pocket.
I am so tired of the whole he got him hurt running the football. It's almost like Bradley Graham. It is almost like Bradley Graham. Football is a contact sport. It's almost like giant men jump on top of you, and can hurt you. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. Dak Prescott hurt from the pocket. It literally, it is time that people need to stop already with this. No one gets anyone hurt. You can get hurt by being on the field playing the game of football.
You get hurt in practice too.
You can get hurt falling out of bed. I don't want to hear this about coaches being hurting guys. Ridiculous.
Don't make us invoke Jason Pierre-Paul. I don't know why that was the first.
Tua got hurt in the pocket. Tannehill might be done from the pocket. There's so many. Justin Herbert cracked his ribs from the pocket. Almost feels like you can get hurt playing this game by just being on the field. Almost feels like that, right? Incredible. I can't believe it. This is a realization I came to with this weekend watching football because I didn't have anything to do with the 49ers not playing. All I did was yell at Cowboys.
We call you Spicy Aponte for a reason, and takes like that. I mean, just really solidify
the narrative. Let's bust the narratives. That's it. Football's a contact sport. You are bound to get injured. It is dependent on how injured. It is time for everyone to stop blaming coaches for football players being injured in a sport where it is more than likely you are going to be injured. Not everybody can be Frank Gore and play 85 years. That's impossible. That's not the same thing.
And we kind of segue into David's question. And he says, when do you think we accept the 3 seed and rest our starters for the playoffs, obviously to avoid further injury? They're kind of doing that with Debo a little bit. And do you think they rest Purdy as well or give him as many game reps as possible? What are your thoughts on this?
This is a slippery slope. Thank you, David, for the donation, by the way. This is a slippery slope because seeding is one thing. Now, if you can't get the number 2 seed, then I guess your mind would move to, okay, let's rest everybody and get them going. But my mind works in a different way, and you guys can call me out on this if you want. Brock Purdy is on start 2. I don't think you have the luxury of being able to sit a quarterback who is on his second start, trying to acclimate himself as best as he can to get into the playoffs, which is one and done, by resting him. Now, if you want to do something where it's week 18 and you play him for a few series and everything's wrapped up, that's fine. But this idea of you kind of playing around in week 16, week 17 and not starting guys, I don't like that. I think Brock Purdy needs as many game reps as possible with these offensive players. Now, if this means Deebo Samuel is not on the field until the playoffs, I'm okay with that. That's different. I think you can integrate Deebo in, and I don't think you'd miss a step when it comes to that. We're talking about one player and a guy who is vital to what the 49ers want to do. But the idea of resting guys when you're still trying to get Brock Purdy to be at the optimal point with this offense, it feels foolish. That would be where I'm at. No matter about seeding, it feels foolish. You have to kind of go for it and keep the ball rolling because you still want to remain hot. There is a thing as momentum. There is a thing of being sharp, because if you come out flat in a playoff game, that might be the reason that you go home, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree. If to kind of piggyback on your point too, like if a Deebo Samuel can't play or is questionable, like Deebo probably could have played this week, but they're making sure that he's as healthy as possible. But in regards to Brock Purdy, like he needs reps, like he needs to continue to build that confidence, the ability to just the comfortability of playing with these guys, and them, not only him playing with the Brandon Ayuk's and the George Kittles, but them also playing with Brock Purdy. Like there needs to be this continued, and like you said, momentum, this inertia, this energy that they need to continue to spin and build. And I don't think you will succeed at that if you rest guys against the Raiders and the Cardinals. Now, I do see a world where they feel pretty confident with where they're at after the Raider game, and maybe they rest their starters. That to me, I can fathom. The Cardinals are on Trace McSorley right now. They're on their third string quarterback.
I don't even want to watch Hard Knocks tonight.
So, like, if you want to talk about that week 18, when seeding is likely locked up for the most part, and if the 49ers win against Washington and they beat the Raiders, then yes, I could see that particular situation playing out. But it's not going to happen against Washington, and I don't think it's going to happen against the Raiders. We'll cross that bridge for the Cardinals. But until then, you got to keep building these reps. You got to get these live bullets flying, and you got to be able to prepare for what's to come. And that is potentially a deep run in the playoffs.
And getting the second seed is important because if something happens to Philly and they lose before it's time, now you don't ever have to leave Cali or the West Coast, right?
Yes,
Your
right.
your road to Glendale means you stay on the West Coast the entire time. Look,
Which
stranger
would be
things have happened.
fantastic. I would love
Yes.
that. Please do that.
Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. Teams that look like world beaters, they end up, going down in the first round or their first playoff game. So you have to keep pushing for that second round. I think what David's point is, which I think is a good one, is if they already have the third seed locked up, and let's say Minnesota finds a way to lock up, then what's the discussion? And I think that's a more valid point, because if the second seed is in play, then you have to be playing for that. You have to be playing for that just so you can lock in every single playoff game you can until it's time to come over here to Philly.
Home field advantage matters in the playoffs.
Yes.
Obviously, with the San Francisco 49ers, we have the best fan base in the world that travels to all these locations. So it's not as big of a deal, but it still matters. Playing in front of your home crowd and stuff like that definitely energizes the players. We got a couple more super chats.
Okay.
Ben says Purdy having instant success shows us that Kyle's system is working, and it's Jimmy G that's holding us back. Thoughts?
I think there's a way to praise what Purdy's doing without
taking down Jimmy.
Yeah, taking down Jimmy. I think, Ben, thank you for the donation. I just think Jimmy has been great at certain things, man. He really has. And and look, when he starts, they win. I don't know how to explain it. We always say QB.
That's why you can't just judge quarterbacks as physical traits. There's an intangible trait that comes along with quarterbacks.
I do 100% agree with the first part of this. Purdy having instant success shows that Kyle's system is working. Kyle's system has always worked. It's always worked. There's just been little things. And that's kind of where we were early on in the season, right? I felt like every single time that we talked after a game, they're close. They're right around the corner. It's right there.
We can see it. It's there.
It's there, especially on the film. When guys are running wide open and the throw either gets dropped or it's just off, it's there. It's all there. It's still all there. So I don't think Kyle's system's ever not worked. I just think there was just little stuff. But look, I think there's a way to be able to praise what Brock Purdy is doing. Also say that Kyle Shanahan does feel a bit more comfortable calling certain things, while also not downplaying Jimmy Garoppolo in any way, if that makes sense, because Jimmy was so instrumental to some of these wins, and he was very good. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to do the same thing. Like, I'll compare and contrast to try to be like when I'm doing film, because let's face it, Jason, you and I, we have watched a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo play football. And so we know what Jimmy is, and we're not surprised by anything. The reason why this year we were talking about it being one of his best years yet is because he was being efficient. He was limiting the no plays. And that's all we've ever asked of Jimmy, is if he can limit the big mistakes and the big turnover plays, we understand that this offense is really hard to stop. So we can compare and contrast, but Jimmy was playing good ball. Brock Purdy has, a similar skill set, a similar intangible, and he throws a very catchable football. He's got great touch. He's got some stuff to him where you can compare and contrast and be like, yeah, maybe Brock is playing, in a 3-game sample size. I think you can make the argument that Brock Purdy's playing better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but that also isn't a dig at Jimmy. It's more praising Brock and how special this 3-game run has been. And what we're trying to determine is this a flash in the pan? Is this sustainable? Can he keep it rolling? Because if he can keep this rolling, the 49ers are going to roll into the playoffs being very, very scary to beat. So that's what we're trying to evaluate. I think Jimmy did a good job this year.
And if Jimmy doesn't step in and operate this offense and lead this team to wins, there is no playoff series. There's no playoff run, anything like that. Right?
If we turn to Nate Sudfeld, just imagine where we'd be at this.
Yeah. So look, whatever the end of this story is with the San Francisco 49ers this season, Jimmy Garoppolo, you can't tell the story of this season without Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't.
Correct.
You just can't, because we were lucky enough to have
Or
him
Trey
stay
Lance,
around.
for that matter.
Right. We were lucky enough to have him around when Trey Lance unfortunately was injured, and we were able to pivot to a guy that I believe is a starting quarterback in this league, just happened to be a backup on this team, and he led this team to wins. Now he gets injured, but those wins, he has something to do with it. So, like, again, it's hard for me to pile on a guy who's injured. Is injured, right? Like, it's just,
and was having a great year for
and
his
he was probably having his best statistical season, and even tape wise, like he was putting some really nice throws on tape, all of those things. So yeah, I mean, I just do think there's a way for you to be happy about what Purdy's doing, be optimistic about what he's doing, even argue that this offense looks better with him without taking down Jimmy. I'm not trying to come at you or anything like that, Ben. It's just I've seen a lot of it. And again, quarterback position is going to be discussed ad nauseum because it is the most important part of the field, on the field. But, you know, for me, I think that Jimmy deserves credit for what he did this season.
Well, let's face it. Our fan base has some legitimate scars when it comes to talking about the quarterback position, you know, because it's almost politicized at a certain point. And it's like, you know what? We can like all three quarterbacks at the same time. Whoa, now there's a thought.
You might wait a minute. You mean that you can root for the success of all three quarterbacks on this team, Brad? Stop with the logic.
Jimmy, Brock, you can like all of them? Whoa, that's crazy.
Stop that. Will you stop it? You have to dig in on one person and just stay with that one person, and then pray for the downfall of the other two. That's the way I've been looking at what Twitter is.
Hey, this is a good point from David. He said it could go down as the greatest front office move in history, dropping Sudfeld for Purdy after giving up, I think it was $2 million guaranteed. But still, really, that was a great, like, I just went, I literally cruised through the entire training camp like Nate Sudfeld's a backup.
Me too.
That's it. That's why I didn't watch Brock. I literally had no investment into scouting him because I literally didn't think
Brad,
the $2 million would be something that they would just let walk out the door for Mr. Irrelevant. It just wasn't a thought process ahead, and my mistake.
The other thing is, Brad, is there would be days where Brock Purdy would get 7 reps and everything would be Trey and Nate. And there would be days that Nate was great. I hate that rhymed, but it's a bit of revisionist history for people to say you knew that this was going to happen. If you guessed that, that's fine. But for me, there was nothing to indicate that Brock Purdy would be playing at the level that he's playing right now from anything that was seen at training camp. Situationally, he looked good in certain spots. Sometimes he threw some terrible interceptions in which people were like, okay, can we get Trey Lance back on the field because he needs the reps and you're messing around with this. So I'm not trying to, like, again, cover my take, anything like that. But for the people that are like, I knew you took a shot, it worked. But there's no way that you could have confidently been at training camp every single day like we were and said, I know for a fact that this guy, if Preston the Duty, would do this, because the guy that's playing right now is not the guy that I saw at training camp. And it's just weird. That's it. I'm happy, though. It's beautiful.
I gotta give a shout out to one guy. I spoke to Larry Krueger throughout the offseason. I went on with him after minicamp. I went on with him after training camp, during training camp. This dude was adamant that Brock Purdy was a guy. And, you know, I didn't disagree with him or anything, but I also my thought process was, I'm not here to evaluate the third string quarterback that I don't think is going to make the roster, because Nate Sudfeld was still making plays and, you know, throwing the ball and slinging it around the field. You know, some of the biggest highlights from training camp came from Nate Sudfeld throws. So
yes,
you combine that with the $2 million he was owed. I was like, Brock Purdy, welcome to the practice squad, my boy. I'll have plenty of time to evaluate you later. But Larry, I mean, I got to give him his flowers, man. He was like, Brock Purdy's a dude. He told me this in minicamp with no pads, nothing. He's like, Brock Purdy's a dude. Brock Purdy's a dude. And he's like, Brock Purdy's a dude. I was like, I'll take your word for it. And,
you know, and then
he was absolutely right about that.
We didn't come up with memes for Brock Purdy. We had memes for, you know, wake up, honey, new Sudfeld dart, because there were some Sudfeld darts. Like, it was just, honestly, man, when you count the money, when it looked, everything indicated, everything from a rational standpoint, indicated that the 49ers were fine with Nate Sudfeld being the backup. But this is where you have to give the 49ers credit. They've been in the building with him. They know what they had. So they were willing to lose that money because they believed in that. And then also, don't act like this didn't come about when Jimmy Garoppolo's back, because who are you going to get rid of? The guy that you picked up off of waivers, Nate Sudfeld, or the guy that you drafted that actually Kyle likes his traits? Right. So I think that has a little bit to do with it as well. Obviously, if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't come back, then Nate Sudfeld stays. But
yeah, I agree.
That's not what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, it's not only that either. Like, what about the heavily debated 3rd-round draft pick traded up to get Trey Sermon or Jordan Mason? Who are you going to keep? The 49ers had some hard decisions this offseason, and sticking with Jordan Mason, sticking with Brock Purdy over guys that you've previously taken, and hey, let's face it, just didn't pan out the way you thought it would. They deserve a hell of a lot of credit. Like, I don't think, there's a lot of that fire Kyle Shanahan early in the year when they were 3-4, 3-5, whatever it was. Fire, John Lynch, like that talk. Like, it's 2 years of this in a row. I think it's time that if this comes around next year, that we just all collectively point and laugh and just be like, we've been here before. Let's not fall down this trap again. And these guys are going to figure it out. And based on what they've shown these last 6 years, they deserve the leash to figure it out, even if it isn't going correct.
Ooh, Kyle Shanahan haters are having a tough time right now. They're having a real tough time with themselves because you know what they're doing? They're huffing the copium because Kyle Shanahan is not going anywhere. My goodness, back-to-back years of them.
Are those the guys that are still talking about Trey Lance is the reason, or coach is the reason Trey Lance got hurt?
Coach is the reason Trey Lance got hurt. Yeah, or coach can't develop quarterbacks, and like Brock Purdy's balling. It's like this year. The last narrative that Kyle Shanahan has to bust is win the big game. Everything else he's done. Everything else he's done. It's hard for a Kyle hater. They wake up in the morning and they look in the mirror and they're like, we've got to find a way to criticize him. And you can't. Back-to-back winning years, back-to-back playoff berths, winning with their backup quarterback. Everyone had that ridiculous stat. Well, look at Andy Reid's numbers with a backup quarterback. Look at this guy's numbers.
But Ken Dorsey, Jace.
But Ken Dorsey went 4 weeks without scoring a second-half touchdown. And if that was Kyle Shanahan, oh, my God, you would have came for him. It's reactionary. It's silly, but it's also put to bed. And if you want to grit your teeth and be that guy in the mirror that's pointing with the smiley face on, but he's crying behind, you have to do that now at this point. You have to do that now at this point because Kyle Shanahan has righted the ship. Everyone believes, and they made the right move for Christian McCaffrey. No matter what you say about this season, they are making the right decisions. They are winning games in spite of losing 2 starting quarterbacks. Kyle's doing everything that you said he couldn't. Win in back-to-back years, be in the playoffs back-to-back years, win with backup quarterbacks. He is doing everything you said he can't. And God help you, Kyle brings home that trophy. And I also wrote an article on Niners Nation because I want to highlight one thing also, which is kind of funny to me. There are 8 active head coaches that have won Super Bowls. 8. Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy, Doug Peterson, Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Sean McVay, and I believe I'm missing one more. The point is this. Andy Reid won his first Super Bowl in like his 20th year of coaching, and he was somebody who largely was known as the guy who couldn't win the big game and
couldn't win the big game. Exactly.
Okay. Bill Belichick's the GOAT, but he's lost Super Bowls as well too, but he didn't win his first Super Bowl until his 7th year.
He got fired from his first job.
He did. Mike Tomlin won a Super Bowl, and he went to a second Super Bowl and lost to Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is not going to sniff a Super Bowl unless he plays Madden. John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl. Sorry, 49ers fans, but he's never been back. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, got fired 3 years later. He's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sean McVay won a Super Bowl. Their team is on pace to be the worst Super Bowl team since then. Are you guys starting to get where I'm going? Winning a Super Bowl is not easy. 31 teams don't do it. This idea that he has to win a Super Bowl on your timeline, when that is literally not how some of the greatest coaches and some of the most highly regarded coaches have done it, is ridiculous and silly. It is really silly. There are only 8 guys that have won Super Bowls. There's 32 teams, 8 of them. And only one of them has won multiple. Only 2 or 3 of them have been to multiple. Andy Reid still only has one. Only has one. Mike Tomlin has one, and he lost to Mike fucking McCarthy in his other Super Bowl. So the point is, guys, this whole Super Bowl thing, you're starting to realize that it's not easy to do, and that even the best coaches have only won one. These are so many things that are just right in front of you. If you allow the emotions to fall away, if you start to look at everyone's track record, if you start to look at how this league is built with parity, how this league goes with coaches, injuries, how much luck, and Pete Carroll's the other. Sorry. And Pete Carroll has one, and he lost the other to Bill Belichick. You need to understand that it's talent, it's coaching, and winning a Super Bowl, luck. There's a little luck involved. Always, for every single Super Bowl team. So I am talking about some of the most highly regarded coaches in our league that only have one bowl. But as of right now, Kyle Shanahan has definitely got to win a Super Bowl now, or he's fired. What? When? How? What are we doing here?
So I'm gathering, bear with me, I'm gathering that winning a Super Bowl is hard.
It's not easy. Let's say that.
Okay.
It's not easy.
Okay.
It's not easy.
All right.
31 other teams don't get to celebrate the Super Bowl, right? Bruce Arians won his one and dipped. It was like, I'm out of here. Like, I can't do this anymore.
You mean sometimes the best teams don't win the Super Bowl?
Oh, what? No way. Really? You mean sometimes the team that just gets into the Super Bowl is a little hot, is the healthiest team, circumstances change. I mean, Nick Foles is the reason that the Eagles won a Super Bowl, but Carson Wentz is the reason they got there, right? Like, so it's about it's really just boils down to coaches. When you look at the highly regarded coaches, the ones who have won Super Bowls, everybody gets it a different way. Andy Reid was largely regarded as the guy who can't manage a clock, can't finish the big game. Well, here comes Patrick Mahomes, and all of a sudden you win a Super Bowl, but they still have only won one. One. Patrick Mahomes has won Super Bowl. And you know what? There's a world where Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid only finish with one Super Bowl. Buckle up, folks. That's an insane thing to think, but it is true. So this whole idea that Kyle Shanahan hasn't won a Super Bowl, you've got to fire him. Well, let's look at the other guys who have won it and how they've won it. Mike Tomlin took over a Steelers team that was loaded. He won his one. He lost another. They have not sniffed another Super Bowl. John Harbaugh won his one. They have never been back. Pete Carroll won his one, lost another. Coaching and winning a Super Bowl is hard because this league is hard. The competition's hard. That's it.
Yeah. And the San Francisco 49ers, listen, you might have your differences on certain things with Kyle Shanahan, but one thing that you cannot argue is that this man knows how to develop head coaches. I don't know what it is. Like the staffs that he puts together, whether it's Mike McDaniel, whether it's Robert Saleh, whether it's going to be D'Amico Ryans who's going to be head coach, this man knows how to put together staffs. He knows football, and that's half the battle. Yeah, putting out a product is a big part of it, and coaching them up and doing the right things. Absolutely. And that's what we're going to focus on a lot. But what doesn't get discussed about what Kyle Shanahan does is being able to develop a staff. And he does it year in, year out. Guys leave, brings in the next one. Who's going to be the defensive coordinator next year when Mr. D'Amico Ryans takes his head coaching job somewhere next? I bet it's going to be someone who's pretty capable. And again, credit to Kyle Shanahan for doing.
You know who it's going to be, right? You know who it's got to be. It's got to be for the brand. It's got to be for the brand. It's got to be Lord Vic Fangio to return.
Bring him back.
Bring him back. Bring Vic home. Bring Vic home. Finally, me and everyone else will be able to figure out what the hell is Fangio running over there, man.
Oh God, we need to know. And I hope it's coming. We got let's get this last super chat in here. It's kind of a fun one. What do you think of this? Who do you pick? Pro Bowl 49ers roster 1994 or 2012?
Damn it. I mean, that 94 roster had the greatest receiver of all time. one of the greatest Dion, the greatest cornerback of all time, had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Right.
Ken Norton was somebody that I feel like a lot of everybody just thinks it was just bringing over Dion, but Ken Norton, Lyman, you talk about like Dana Stubblefield and there's so many so now when you look over at this 2012 team, there's no receiver better than Jerry because there's no receiver that's ever been better than Jerry. Jimmy's not better than Steve. No cornerback
Crabtree's
is better.
Not sniffing Jerry Rice.
Oh, well, we're talking about 12. We're talking about 12. You're right. My bad. 12. So Cap, Davis is not. Davis could be above Brent Jones. I'll give him that. Crabtree's not Jerry Rice.
Staley. That offensive line was nice though.
Gore over Ricky Waters. It depends on what you're looking for. Ricky Waters was a glove hand fit for that offense. That one's hard, man. I'm gonna say 94 because there's too many of the greatest players who have ever played the game to play there. It is so hard for me to go against Steve Young's, Jerry Rice, and Deion Sanders on the same roster. And then it's insane that they had to be that loaded to overcome Dallas finally.
Yeah, I got to go with the team that won the bowl. I love the 2012 team. I cut my teeth with those early teams in the 2010s and things like that. That's when I really started digesting absolutely everything that was about the 49ers. And so I have great love for those teams, but you have to look, historically at what that 1994 team did and who was on that team. I think you got to go with the 94 team. I mean,
and
if 2012 won, if they won a ship and were able to sustain that, maybe. I mean, I know sustaining it doesn't have much to do with the question, but I think it would definitely help the conversation. I think right now it's pretty leaning in favor of 94, even though the 2012 team defense was insane.
And the jerseys.
Yeah.
Man, that's a vibe, that 94 season. That was that Dallas game felt like the Super Bowl. How does it feel to know that you're rolling into a Super Bowl, that you're about to just, you're rolling?
Yeah. I mean, I was 5 years old, so I was vibing out there, as much as I could.
I was 10 in a bar in the Bronx.
You probably remember it a lot better than I do, but I definitely remember one of my most fondest early memories is the catch 2 against the Green Bay Packers. Was that the game that Hurst broke his ankle too?
He broke his ankle against Atlanta. The week after.
I remember that play.
That's
why that play's burned into
because they would have won that game. They would have won that game. But I'll remember that game because my cousin was a big Packers fan at the time and still is. But they felt like the last hurdle to clear. Like that one felt like getting to the top of the mountain finally. And then remember, this was before replay. Jerry Rice, hey, look, I'll say it really low so nobody can hear it. Jerry Rice fumbled on that drive. It didn't count though, so it didn't happen. But
I think I know what play you're talking about too.
Yeah, it was a clear fumble, but there was no replay. They marked it down, whatever. It don't go down in the book that way. And T.O. had struggles that entire game dropping the ball, and Steve Young told him, I'm coming back to you. And that was when BSC knows Jerry did fumble. But that was when I knew. I was like, all right, T.O.'s my new guy. Like Jerry's my favorite player, but then my favorite player when he left, it became Terrell Owens, and Terrell Owens was my favorite receiver after that. And unfortunately, he remained my favorite receiver no matter where he went, Dallas, Philly, wherever it was. So
yeah, absolutely. That was a great question. We like going back a little bit too. We're vibing out here. I mean, Jason, we're an hour 23 in, so I don't want to go too much longer because I know Averly's vibing,
and I'm trying to eat some of this pizza too.
And you probably smelling that pizza, so we're gonna get you out of here pretty quickly. But let's do elevator pitch. Washington, what are we looking for against the Commanders? Is this a difficult game? Is this a game that they're gonna win? I wouldn't say must win, but is this a game that, Commanders are coming in fighting for their playoff lives, and this could actually be a preview potentially of a playoff matchup for the 49ers in the future.
Another good test. Chase Young is going to play. Let's see what extent he's going to play.
Is it official?
Yes. Yeah, I think he's on track to play. That's an interesting thing for not only the offensive line, but Brock Purdy and the challenges he presents. The 49ers still have enough to get this done. The Washington Redskins, they want to run the Redskins. Woo! Sorry, bleep that. Commanders. Goodness gracious.
Bleep that. We'll cut that in editing.
Yeah. The Commanders want to run the ball, but they haven't been necessarily as effective running the ball. They're like 24th in a lot of metrics. They're pretty low at the bottom. You know, Brian Robinson, amazing story. Antonio Gibson has been used a little bit more as a pass catcher. J.D. McKissick's been down. This is going to be a tough one, man, because when Terry McLaurin makes a play, I'm going to be like, look at our boy, and I'm going to be like, hey, stop it. All right, now stop, Terry. Like, just stop. But they do present some interesting matchup problems. They use Curtis Samuel much like we use Deebo Samuel over here. It's going to be a very nice test for both defenses. Another playoff-esque team, whether they make it or not. As of right now, they are slotted into the playoffs. Had a tough game on Sunday night. But the 49ers absolutely have enough to get this done. They should take this one home. But, yeah, I mean, I think Washington is a good test, and I think another good data point for where Brock Purdy is and how he's going to be able to how he's going to be able to handle this defensive line, especially if Chase Young is anywhere near back to the guy that we saw a few years ago.
I mean, the Commanders they got some dogs on that defensive side of the football, man. I mean, they really do, and they do have an opportunity to make it really difficult, especially if they can get the pass rush fired up against the 49ers offensive line, who's actually been playing really well these last 2 weeks. I do think it's going to be a tough matchup. I don't think it's going to be a gimme. I mean, you never know. But again, with the team that is fighting for their lives right about now, Taylor Heineke fighting for his future, I imagine they're not going to roll down and die. So we'll see how it goes. And I know it's a home game, but would you call this a trap game? Do you get trap vibes?
It could, but
49ers are what, 7-0 run, like
off of a mini bye. You got a bunch of days off, things like that. Like, look, if you want to be pessimistic, you can look at that. But for me, a trap game implies that you're losing to a team that is like at the bottom of the league. Yeah, right. Like, there's still a playoff team as of right now, right? And Ron Rivera is going to get those guys ready to play. So it can be a bit of a letdown game. Trap game implies like something like if you are facing the Indianapolis Colts and, they're coming off a win or something like that, and it may be the same circumstances, even though they're not. Thanks a lot, Colts. That's what a trap game to me means. This feels like this could be a spot for a letdown because I do believe that the 49ers are better than the Commanders. I think a lot of people do. But a trap game implies to me that it's a far inferior team, not a team that you're just better than.
Well said. I think you're absolutely right. And right on cue, we got the bots coming in. So that must be time to wrap it up. I appreciate all you guys, as always, tapping in. You already know where to find both of us as we do our dual streams, State of the Franchise episodes. Jason, what you got cooking?
I took some days off because I wasn't really feeling too well. Also, didn't really have too much to talk about because I felt like we've already talked about the Seattle win. Wednesday's the perfect time to turn the page and now get into Washington week, I feel, especially with this long week. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. This is me on Twitter, Jason Aponte2103, and look out for me on Niners Nation. 5-6 articles a week. Been churning out the content. A lot of fun right now, man. A lot of fun to cover this team. A lot of fun to be talking about Brock Purdy. A lot of fun to be talking about a playoff run. So regardless, I just want to leave you with this. What will happen in the offseason is going to happen. What's happening now is what should be focused on. Let's focus on what's happening now, and let's enjoy the ride while it's here before we start getting the swords back out and killing each other in the offseason.
I'm excited about playoffs. That's what I'm looking for.
I never had the 49ers winning 8 games this season. Will everyone stop lying? My goodness gracious, man. Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
They're tired of the lie
about you, man.
They're just lying. Like this is just outright lying. It's not even close to that. There's videos where you can go and literally see me talking 10, 11 wins. They're about to surpass that far. Whatever. If y'all are trolling, then you got me. Whatever. I'm just going to go.
If you're trolling, you got me. Oh, my goodness. Appreciate all you guys, as always, for tapping in. I'm Brad Graham. That's Jason Aponte. And as always, for joining us on our Wednesday State of the Franchise episodes. You guys are the best. I think it's a good time to hit them with the new intro, outro, huh? Think so?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. We're out of here, guys. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.